operators have also been facing similar challenges as well, with several winning praise and criticism in recent weeks from the agent community. We've talked with 3 operators about the difficulties they face and how they believe the travel industry will change going forwards. I'm thrilled today to be joined by 3 fantastic operators. Lisa McAuley, Managing Director for Tour Operations B2B Donata Travel Europe for Gold Medal and Travel2, Alan Cross, Head of Trade Sales at Jet2holidays, and Derek Jones, CEO of Touristic UK, which of course is the parent company for Kuoni. Now, I'm really keen for our audience to hear very much about the challenges that operators have been facing during this COVID-19 crisis. A lot of you have come in, the 3 of you in particular, for praise from the trade and for the way that you've worked with agents. Can you just talk to me a little bit about how you have been utilising your relationships with agents, how you've strengthened them, and also the challenges and difficulties that you've really found during this crisis? Lisa, should we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it's been about adapting our business and our processes as best we possibly can based on agent feedback. At the start of all of this, there was a huge amount of noise that there was too much information coming through. You know, if you look at just airline policies as an example, of which there are hundreds, one airline changed its own policy with it 3 times within 12 hours. So it was information overload. So quite quickly, we spun up to an area on each of our websites and named them the COVID Hub, so that we could host all of the information in that one spot, because there was also a concern that the information that we were sending out wasn't necessarily being picked up. The other things that we've done, we produced a consumer-facing letter to help agents try to explain to the customer what was going on within the industry. And whilst agents were saying to us they didn't want promotional offers, obviously, they still wanted creative content really to support the message of don't cancel, we book, but they didn't have the design ability within their own business to do it. So we produced some unbranded content, again hosted within the hub that agents could then download and share. And then one of the more challenging requests that was being made to us was people were asking for balance due dates to be delayed and to be shortened. Yeah. So now the challenge we have with that is because we don't own an asset, we don't own the airline, we don't own the cruise ship. So if you own the asset, it's quite easy to make that decision. You can say, okay, we'll go from hypothetically a 14-week balance payment to a 4-week. Because we will have had to have paid our suppliers and abide by their terms, it's not so easy for us to do that. So what we did was we allowed deposits to be moved on to a credit. So at least the agent, understandably, if consumers were nervous about paying balances, they didn't have to pay the balance, but they could move that the deposit, rather than having a loss of deposit, move it onto a credit note. So therefore protecting the booking. And then finally, I guess in terms of, you know, what we've done just last Friday, we're always trying to look for what else is needed. So we sent a survey out last Friday, the results of which I'm still collating. And of course, your sample size is smaller because a number of agents are furloughed, and I'm sure we'll come on to talk about the challenges that that's caused. Yeah. But just asking questions of what more we can do. So it is really just trying to engage as much as you can and try and explain that there are some ideas that are brilliant that you would love to implement, but you've got to explain if you can't, why can't you? Yeah.
I think that key point that you mentioned about the airlines and the cruise lines, if you don't operate it, trying to get in touch and give the ATOL refund for that, because I know some agents have had some real difficulty with that. Alan, obviously you're in a slightly different position with that because you do own the assets. Yes. Tell us a little bit about how you've been working with agents.
We identified very early on, it's all about communication, communication, communication. Make a decision and make it happen. As usual at Jet2holidays, keep things simple. So we've worked very hard to do that. As far as keeping communication open, we have not furloughed any of our trade sales team. They're all working very hard in the background. In fact, we've taken on additional staff from other departments to make sure that the workload is handled as efficiently as possible. Come April, we had 21,000 bookings to cancel and get either a refund credit note out there or get a cash refund to those people. Then when we suspended flying for May and the beginning of June, that was another 53,000 bookings that we had to handle that way. Now, the pressure on everybody's contact centres is huge. So we decided to ring-fence trade and handle that in-house ourselves. So we have got apprentice pilots, we have got charter people, you name it, we've got them working for us in the trade team at this moment to make sure that we keep the lines of communication open. And that's whether it's the social media, email, face-to-face contact, as far as using the technology that we have here today. We'll keep the channels open that way. And talking to the agents, something that was very clear was that with the scale and mix that some of those agents have of Jet2holiday business, they were very worried that if everything got refunded, they'd lose their business basically. So very quickly we made this decision to work with APTA and the CAA to produce a refund credit note that ticked all the boxes, and we did that early on, and we're continuing to do that. What that does is give the customer the option. If they wish to rebook, they can do so. If they wish a cash refund, they can do so. If they choose to hold off and wait till the 31st of July, then they'll get a cash refund. So it's given that option, but it allows the agent to have a chance of retaining the customer, retaining the commission, and again, retaining their business in many cases. I've actually travel agents on crying to me that basically that decision of producing that refund credit note has saved their business.
Yeah. There's a few aspects I want to come back to on that. I think the interesting part is the ability that Jet2 has, and you're able to move staff into different areas to help resource that area. Really difficult challenges for businesses that have had to furlough staff. Derek, Kuoni's obviously had to furlough a number of staff, which obviously you got a lot of press attention for recently because sadly you were looking at redundancies, but then you were able to utilise the government scheme. Tell us a little bit about that and the challenges that you guys have faced.
Well, to tie it into the previous answers and the previous conversations, I think fairly early doors I think probably the same as Lisa, because we're a sort of long-haul tour operator and because this crisis sort of started in the Far East of China and then slowly spread, I think long-haul tour operators were amongst the first people to realise where this was going and what was happening. We probably had a 2-3 week lead on most of the people in terms of our thinking and our preparation. And I think we looked at it quite simply. We understood that we were probably going to have to close stores. We understood the head office was probably at some point going to have to close down. So we looked at what we need to do, and we sort of kept the 4 key areas for us. Well, first of all, we were going to have to repatriate, so we needed enough staff in an operations team to make sure we could repatriate the customers that we had overseas. We knew we were going to have to cancel immediate departures. Whether it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there was going to be government advice about immediate cancellations. We'd have to respond to future customers being concerned, maybe wanting to transfer, amend or cancel, but people who've got holidays travelling later. And of course, we needed to keep some capacity to sell in that structure as well, because at some point this was going to come back. So we effectively just did some maths on call centre volumes and forecast what the demand was going to be, including from B2B. And then we retained that number of people and we furloughed everybody else. And as Alan said, we very imaginatively switched people around the business. So actually we've managed to create a blended call centre team now of about 50 people, which is the capacity we think we need, where actually we can support all of those channels and support our agent partners as well as supporting customers. But I think from our perspective, and I'm sure the other 2 guys will agree, travel agents sort of share our philosophy. So when it comes to our response and what we were trying to do, there wasn't a cigarette paper between us and an agent's perspective. They wanted to look after their customers. They had financial challenges, as Alan has pointed out. They were going through a difficult time, same as we are, same as everybody else is. And I think that sort of collaboration from the start meant that we all got off on the same page, and then we've all stuck together ever since. So for us, it's been a challenge, but not insurmountable. And it's great to see other businesses have taken a similar approach and have used the furlough scheme to protect their own business, but haven't been draconian and shut down the whole operation. They've kept a focus on the customer and kept in mind that we do have a business ahead of us, and we do need to think about that as well.
I mean, on the furlough scheme, it is a fantastic thing for businesses to be able to use, but travel is unique, as we identified in the last seminar, and that a number of agents are really frustrated by the fact that they need these staff, they need the money, they need the money that they would get from the furlough scheme, but they also need these staff to actually talk to their clients and operate that customer service. What challenges have you guys found in terms of getting in touch with agents? I think, Lisa, you touched on that, and the fact that a lot of agents are on furlough.
Yeah, so following on from what Derek just said about him doing some calculations from a contact centre point of view, we did the same. Now, the priority for me was to ring fence the sales and operations team who effectively managed the crisis. So we've got 235 people. The average wait time now to get through to us is on average about 5 minutes. So it's critical that you keep those people within the business, but that only works if you can contact agents. Yeah. And what we found was that a lot of people pressed the button quite early on the furlough scheme, and probably went a bit too deep as well. But none of us knew where. I'm not criticising anybody here. None of us knew what was happening, I guess. And but you know, in terms of agents then closing and directing customers to a contact centre, who themselves may then, well, we know, we experienced, they were then overwhelmed themselves. And actually directed the customer to us, or the customer understood from their ATOL certificate that we were the tour operator. And of course, we can't take instruction. We're a B2B operator, because we then move into GDPR issues. And so it's vital, really, that there is a mirroring of agents available for us to be able to action the bookings accordingly. So, you know, we did furlough people, but I kept everybody who was systems trained, because then you can lift and shift your resource accordingly. So it's helped because we can get through the volumes. But as I say, I think the biggest challenge for us has been being able to contact agents. We started outbound calling. There was no point. So we had to change that very quickly, because the vast majority of calls we were making, agents were either too busy to take a call or weren't there to answer the phones.
Right. I mean, on that point, I know after Thomas Cook, John Bevan spoke quite openly at the APTA conference about looking at perhaps getting clients' contact details from agents in the event of another crisis. Were those plans put in place before this crisis, or had they not yet been implemented?
They're just about there, and that's the challenge. So they are just about there. That definitely would have made life a heck of a lot easier, particularly on repatriation. Yeah. You know, on the repatriation efforts, because borders were closing so quickly and airline schedules were changing so quickly. You know, our advice immediately was to ensure that customers' emergency contact details were up to date in the airline system, and to register with the FCO or the embassy, sorry, in whatever destination there is. Now, that wasn't us washing our hands of that. That was because we don't have the customer contact details, and the agents were a challenge to get hold of. So it just had a knock-on effect. But yes, customer details is still absolutely on the agenda.
Yeah, and I guess this crisis has proved again why it's necessary.
Yeah.
Alan, we touched on the refund credit notes issue, which is obviously a very hot topic, both for consumers and the trade at the moment. You said that you at Jet2 had kind of been very quick to implement that. In terms of the response that you're receiving from customers, is there positivity around that? Because there seems to be a lot of division at the moment in terms of whether, you know, customers are happy to accept these or not.
Very much so, and I suppose it depends on the refund credit note that's on offer there. With ours, as I say, we did work closely with APTA and the CA to produce the wording, and have amended that over the weeks as and when they've chosen us to do so. But it's went down very, very well. Of those customers we have so far in the past 3 weeks who have actioned, and when I say actioned, they've made a decision, I want to rebook, I want a refund, out of those ones, it's 20% are rebooking, 80% have asked for a refund of the ones that have asked for something, but the vast majority are holding off because they know they've got until the 31st of July to make a decision, and then they can get a refund anyway. Even if they don't ask for it, they'll be getting that sent through to them. So it's been very positive, predominantly summer 21, and it is selling very, very well. But there's other interesting factors there. People want a holiday. People have been sitting with their kids for 4.5 weeks now, their partners for 4.5 weeks now. I know my wife can't wait for me to get back to work and move to Leeds Monday to Friday again. The holiday demand is getting looked at. So some interesting things. We're actually seeing that out of all the bookings, the rebooks that we're getting at the moment, 21% of them are not from people that have been affected. These are new customers wanting new holidays that are out there. So there is interesting things happening. The customer's confidence is key, but they are looking very much at winter 2021 and summer 21 at the moment. But there's a lot of questions getting asked for when things get back to normal. Will there be a demand there for it, of course?
Which is a really positive sign that there is that appetite at the moment for bookings. Just on the refund credit note topic, I know, Derek, you've not been shy about sharing your opinions on that. You wrote a very insightful comment on LinkedIn about it. Do you think travel's being unfairly lambasted by the consumer press at the moment?
No, frankly, I don't. I think the overall response could have been more coordinated, and I think as an industry we should have looked inwards and come up with better solutions and understood what the issues were likely to be before they hit us squarely in the face, which they have now. And this morning, this morning's news is sort of back-to-back coverage of fairly negative stories of customers not being refunded. And I think we allowed this to become a consumer-led story, whereas actually I think it should have been an industry-led initiative. I think we should have been much clearer, much sooner about what our response was going to be. And frankly, I think particularly on the airline side, on the supplier side, I think they should have been much more upfront about what their refund policy was straight up, because they're at the top of the tree and everything cascades down from them, and everybody gets stuck in a cash crisis because airlines aren't refunding. So I think we could have seen it coming better, and we could have been more upfront and honest. And the reason I'm frustrated is because it goes back to what Alan's just said, is actually if you have a proactive conversation with customers, they still want a holiday. Everybody we're talking about came into this crisis with a holiday to look forward to. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to come out of this crisis with a holiday to look forward to. In fact, if anything, there's more reason to want a holiday to look forward to at the end of this than there was at the beginning of it. So there's a very rational reason why the vast majority of customers will be happy to amend their booking to a forward departure date. The complication is that a number of customers are very badly affected by the corona crisis themselves. They've been furloughed, they've been made redundant, they've lost their jobs. So it's a highly emotive subject for the people that do want their cash back. So I think if we'd have been clearer up front that for those customers we fully understand and we will refund them, but for the majority of people, rebooking is the best option, and we put all of our energy into persuading people about the benefits of rebooking, then I don't think we would have got to this position. Because, as Alan has said and Lisa has said, people are happy to rebook. We're seeing very strong rebook levels, and we have done from the start. And the more we engage with customers and have the conversation, the more people want to rebook. So I don't know. I think we are between a rock and a hard place, because we panicked about the amount of cash that will leave. We've actually gone in too hard on the nobody's getting a refund position. When actually, if we'd have been more open, given refunds to those that need them, and been more proactive about rebook, then I don't think as an industry we'd be in this position. And it's a shame in a way that, I have to say I agree pretty much with everything that Which have called for this morning. I think it's a shame that it's a consumer vehicle that's having to make those demands rather than us recognising that up front and creating that campaign ourselves.
Is part of the problem, though, that customers are unable to get in touch, because often it's just when you receive that anonymous email saying you'll get your refund in 14 days, or I'm sorry, we can't answer the phones now. It's that human interaction. If someone's able to get through to someone on the phone and they're able to explain, well, actually, would you like to rebook your holiday for later down the line? It can often make a big difference. But when a company's had to furlough a lot of staff and customers can't get through, I wonder if that's part of the problem as well, just the lack of communication.
Totally agree with you there.
Sorry, go on, Alan.
Well, thank you. I totally agree with you there. I don't know about the other guys, but we've regularly had emails from the direct customer saying that they can't get in touch with the travel agent. And it is a furlough issue. It happened very much early on, and I think some of the travel agents out there have learned, and I'm talking both small and large agencies, that they need the staff to be able to manage their existing customers. It's not about booking new customers, it's making sure that the existing customers stay with them and are loyal. And exactly like Derek mentioned there, it's about giving them the service and the chance to rebook that holiday. In many, many cases, they're happy to do it. And if they're not in a position to, they're more than welcome to get a refund. We don't use customers' cash as working capital in our company. If everybody wants a refund, they can have it tomorrow.
Yeah, don't make a similar point.
Sorry, you went.
Were you going to make a similar point to that, or?
Yeah, I was simply going to make the point that from a sort of tour operator perspective, I think we can in a way, be the broker between the agent and the supply side. And we are, in fairness, in our relationships with airlines that we work with, we have had a lot of support, and they have been very open with us. And once we've explained the challenges that we've got, they have come in and supported us. So even the question about deferred balance payments, if we don't ticket and airlines are happy to defer payment on ticketing, then that does give us the flexibility to be able to defer deposits on a case-by-case basis. So I think they have been quite supportive from a tour operator perspective. I think my point is broader, actually. I think the narrative needs to be about how the travel industry is there to support customers through these difficult times, rather than a narrative that has emerged about suppliers hiding behind furlough. Furlough is very helpful, but nobody said that everyone had to be furloughed. Everyone can use that scheme to an appropriate degree to take costs out of their business. But the tightrope we're all walking is what's the appropriate amount of cost saving that you can make and you need to make, whilst also looking after the long-term health of your business and your reputation with your customers. And I'm not for one second suggesting that's an easy tightrope to walk, but as someone said earlier, I think maybe there was an overreaction to begin with, and too much cost was taken out and not enough focus was put onto the consumer.
It does feel as well, though, that perhaps government isn't as aware of the travel industry's challenges as it may well be in other sectors. And I know last week there was a bit more of a call for this crisis has really proved why we need a dedicated tourism minister. Would you guys agree with that? Do you feel like the government hasn't really taken hold of the challenges that are facing, particularly with the travel industry in the current climate?
I'd agree 100%. I think, the short answer for me in that is yes, we should have a seat at the table and we should have a louder voice in government, just purely given the amount of jobs that the industry supports and the income generated from outbound revenue, outbound tourism, inbound and domestic. We absolutely should have a larger share of voice. And it's just frustrating. The aviation industry is better at lobbying governments, but actually we should, in my opinion, but of course we're all biased. I'm sure we'll all agree. We're all going to say that we should have dedicated resource that has got a large share, a greater share of voice in government.
But perhaps now is the time to really go out there after this crisis has passed and shout for it from the hilltops, treetops.
Yeah, I don't see how we can be ignored. But as Derek said, it's the consumer that's driven that. It's the consumers in control of the narrative, not the industry, and that's not the ideal scenario. We should be collectively as an industry, and I know we have been for many years, but we've never been great at lobbying, in my opinion. But now I think the tide may well turn, but that's because of the issues that the consumer's been facing.
Yeah, sorry, just to add to that, I mean, I think the one thing that sits behind all of this has been a sort of lack of proactive government support. And that's the difference really between the UK and most other European countries. I think had the government acted more decisively and sooner, then we really wouldn't have been backed into the corner that we've been backed into. And then which are calling for a sort of a travel support fund to be established. And that's exactly the sort of solution that would get us all out of this cul-de-sac that we've now found ourselves in. Because I think if people understood that they could refund comfortably, knowing that the government would underwrite that refund and then it could be paid back at a later point, then I don't think we would have arrived in the position we've arrived in.
And that has been hinted at on the weekend, wasn't it, that we might receive this $4 billion bailout, but there doesn't seem to have been many more details about that. So touching wood, fingers crossed, we will hear more of that.
Yeah.
I am conscious of time, and I do just want to touch on some of the positive points that you mentioned, because there is so much doom and gloom around. But it was really interesting to hear all three of you mention the fact that bookings are still coming in, and people, perhaps now more than ever, will be sat at home thinking, God, I really just want to get away on holiday. Can we just talk about what the landscape for 2021 is looking like? I mean, I appreciate 2020 is hard to predict, and who knows what will happen with that. But particularly for 2021, bookings are coming in. All three of you are seeing that. I know Kuoni had a nice positive story this morning about seeing a number of bookings coming in.
Yeah, so if you look at the overall volumes that we're now taking on a weekly basis for 2021 are not far off the weekly volumes that we took this time last year. Although, to be fair, the majority of those are rebookings. So the majority of that volume is coming from people that we're rebooking into 2021. But about 20% of them are now completely new bookers. And some of them are actually people who had previously cancelled and are now coming back. So we cancelled and refunded, and they're now already coming back in. And I do think, lockdown after 4 weeks does have a serious impact on your headspace. I think people are now beginning to reach the point where they're seriously thinking about, I do need something to look forward to. So I think we'll see that grow. I think we'll see that recover. And of course, the other thing for our business is a lot of it is about special occasions. And if you're 50 this year and you planned your big holiday this summer, you're probably just going to want to continue that celebration into next year. There's a lot of people celebrating anniversaries, special occasions, special birthdays. And then, as I said earlier, they're quite happy to transfer and move that business forward. So I think that there's obviously a pent-up demand building from people who booked for now and want to transfer to later. But there's increasingly now signs that people who hadn't booked are now in the market for 2021. And I think that will improve as the weeks go by.
Which is fantastic to hear. Alan, you said you're seeing the same at Jet2.
Yeah, and we've also done some other analysis looking at those that have rebooked so far. And what we're seeing is that the ones that have used the refund credit note to make a rebooking are actually increasing not only the holiday spend, but what they're spending it on. So there's been an increase in duration, the quality of the hotel. Some have moved from a 3.5, 4-star to a 4.5, 5-star. They've updated their rooms. So it's as if the money that they've spent already is gone, it's in the bag, and for a little bit more, I can get more for my money, I can get what I wanted this year.
Yeah.
So they're out to spoil themselves. So the good news is that there's not only a demand to rebook, there's a demand to buy a little bit more and upsell, and it's a great time to do this as well. So we are seeing that trend. The other encouraging thing is that the destinations that they are choosing is the popular destination. So there's that reassurance there. In fact, for summer 21, Alma is our top selling destination.
Oh, really?
Turkey's doing well, but also the Canaries doing very well, Portugal doing well. That reassurance that the customer can bounce back, the signs are there, and we need to make sure we capitalise on that when we get out of this.
Lisa, are you seeing similar patterns?
Yeah, not dissimilar to what Derek was talking about, actually. So if I look at the rebookings, actually people are moving to October this year, and I think that's been moving from your Easter school holidays into October half term. February likewise. In fact, the vast majority of our cancelled or rebooks have been for February, and then October after that. We anticipate that May will be a better month for bookings because more airlines will have Easter within their date range as well. In terms of new inquiries, by some way, Florida is still the most popular destination for us. And I think that goes back to what Derek was saying to a certain extent in that special occasional bucket list. Families save for a long time to go to Florida, so they would ordinarily take a longer view and perspective on that anyway. So, but on the survey that I mentioned that we sent out last Friday, 65% of agents said that they were receiving new inquiries. So I think it's, you can sit here and you're in the midst of managing a crisis. And actually, we all need to take a step back and just realise that, yes, there's been a significant number of people that have had their holidays disrupted, but there's a huge proportion of the population that aren't aware of, yes, they're aware clearly of lockdown and everything else that's going on, but they're still planning their holidays. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. There are bookings coming through, but nowhere near at the levels that they were or should be at this time of year, quite frankly.
Interesting though to hear that people aren't being put off certain destinations, because I guess part of the not concern, but more people wondering whether the destinations that are really suffering at the moment, Spain, America, Italy, whether people might be put off booking there. But it sounds like certainly Spain and America are doing quite well.
For us, definitely. I would say Florida, Maldives and Dubai. Maldives seem to have been relatively unscathed in terms of PR associated with the virus. Dubai likewise. And if you look at, Emirates running their testing, 10-minute testing, I think that's helped. And, they went into lockdown, quite a strict lockdown very early. But I'm with you on that, Sophie, in terms of the US. Given that people don't actually know what the entry requirements may well be going forward globally, how countries come out of this. I was surprised that we were seeing that level of demand, but no, it hasn't had an impact certainly to Florida. But I do think Florida is a bit of a unique because of the attraction that it has for families in Disney.
Jerry, what about the destinations that you're seeing? Is it similar patterns? Maldives?
Yeah, similar to Lisa. I mean, Maldives, I mean, it's a big part of our programme anyway, but Indian Ocean overall, Mauritius, Maldives, Sri Lanka, they're all performing very well in terms of people moving and being very happy to move their business forward. But again, a lot of honeymoon business in there where people are, they're probably cancelling their wedding, moving their wedding to next year and then booking their honeymoon for 2021. So yeah, we're seeing a good mix. Caribbean actually held up, was probably the last destination to fall almost. I think I think Barbados was probably the last country that was still allowing people in. And again, they've not had particularly bad press or bad coverage through the whole process. So Caribbean is holding up well. I think a little bit differently, so we're not seeing a huge amount coming in Q4 this year, a little bit. What we're finding is most people are jumping further ahead. Most people are sort of biting the bullet and pushing into 2021 rather than going into the last quarter of this year.
And Alan, what about you? Are you still seeing bookings for later this year, or is it much more of a focus on 2021 now?
The predominant focus is summer 21, but we had an instance when we postponed our flying up until the 17th of June. There was one customer who was due to go on the 16th of June, actually changed their holiday to the 18th of June. So those passengers out there still have that confidence that we're going to get back as soon as possible. But even for the ones that are not booking, I do believe we're going to see a last minute rush. As I say, people have been locked up for at least 6 weeks by the time we come out of this. And there is going to be those ones who are ready to go on holiday now. And it's been ready to take those ones where they wish to go.
Well, that's a fantastic note to end on, I think, that positivity. Thank you so much to all of you. Sadly, that is all we've got time for, but we are now moving to the live Q&A. So thank you very much. Thanks again to our panellists. They are all joining us now, although I should just caveat, sadly, Derek Jones is unable to join us this afternoon. He does have a very good excuse. He's actually hosting the ABTA Lifeline AGM, but we're thrilled that we're joined by Rachel O'Reilly. I can just see who has just joined us. I think you're on mute. I'll just unmute you there. Who is Head of Communications for Kuoni. So thanks for joining us, Rachel. We should have Alan joining us very shortly, and Lisa as well from Gold Medal and Travel too. I can just see them popping up on the screen. Just a question really for all three of you. We've had a question come in already from an anonymous attendee who basically just says, what's your opinion on promoting holidays to your customer base in the current climate? It's a really tricky one. I know we were trying to address it in our last seminar. They say that they've seen a lot of email campaigns. Are you concerned about backlash, or are you okay? Should agents be talking about and promoting destinations, and what's all of your opinions on that?
I mean, I'm happy to answer, Sophie. It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because we've taken the approach that we don't want to be overly salesy, but we're a few weeks in now, and I think that the appetite has changed slightly. Certainly with the emails that we started sending originally, they were very much about reassurance, and there's people still here. Our stores may be closed, but we've still got a team of people here to help you. So very much a kind of, we're open, we're here to help message. But we have moved slightly. We've done some quite inspirational stuff, and I've seen some really nice activity from other operators as well about things to do during lockdown. So things that are like movies to watch, that are travel related, and books to read. So it moved into that direction, and I think that now we have gently started moving into, I guess, what you might call a slightly more gentle sales approach, which is about inspiration and travel ideas for next year, mainly for 2021.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Alan, are you able to say what's Jet2's position on this?
Yeah, I think it's all about customer service at this moment in time. And as part of that customer service, making sure that you're sorting out what they choose to do with their previous holiday that may have been cancelled. It's a great opportunity to put that spark of ideas in their mind and keep that coming there. You've got to keep the door open with these customers and make sure that you can give them ideas for when they're ready to book again.
And Lisa, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was listening to Chris Foti earlier, and he made the point about consumers buying on protection or price. And for me, I think they will potentially move from one to the other. It feels too early just to go down the salesy, price-driven messaging that I think the industry has used predominantly in the past. So I would agree with Rachel in that I think it's more about a very soft sales approach, and absolutely endorse the inspiring elements of travel rather than that really strong price messaging at the moment. But some customers will want that, some customers won't. But ultimately, they have the choice to, a customer has a choice to listen to you, to choose and to engage with you or not. But it is a balance. But for me, it feels like I'd endorse a softer approach right now.
Fab. Thank you. I think following on from some of the conversation earlier, we've had some questions just about chargebacks, whether operators can confirm that they will reimburse agents if they suffer chargebacks. I appreciate these might need to be independent conversations that you have, but are you able to share, Lisa or Alan, do you have a specific policy in relation to that?
It's something that with the travel agents that we've been dealing with, it hasn't arisen on many occasions so far. We have been asked the question, but never given the exact example. Being an operator that has not reduced its balance period, keeping it at 10 weeks out from us collecting that from the travel agent, there's enough time there for the customers to be reassured that their holiday is far enough away, because most travel agents are collecting that at 12 to 14 weeks out, so that they can pay us in time. So it's not an issue that has escalated so far with ourselves, or in fact that we've had many conversations about.
Okay, Lisa, does Gold Medal have a policy on that at all?
We don't have a policy as such. I've been involved in one conversation with one agent, if I'm honest. I think certainly the noise around it, it's been very noisy. I have to say that I think, I know TTG, you guys put out something with regards to how to handle chargebacks, which I referred somebody to actually. So it hasn't registered on my radar possibly as much as I thought it would do, but we are willing to have a conversation, absolutely.
Great, thank you. I hope that answers that question. We have a question from Gary Brown. He says that I know the experts are saying bookings are good for 2021, but is there an idea of the genre of bookings? Is it boutique? I guess he's saying, is it luxury? Are you seeing, I know we talked about destinations, but are you seeing specific type of holidays, solo holidays, escorted touring? Is there any kind of sense of that we're going to see trends in that regard at all? Rachel, I don't know if you're able to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, quite a mix. I mean, I had an update earlier with our team on the kind of enquiries that are coming through, and it is a real mixed bag, actually. I mean, obviously, we're in that sort of premium luxury space anyway, but there's some high-value bookings coming through, some really, really kind of quite big bookings, particularly things like the Maldives. And I know when Derek was talking earlier, you know, probably the most interest we've had in terms of rebookers and new bookers have been Maldives, Mauritius, Mexico, Bali, but we've also had a really diverse mix of things like luxury safaris, like Tanzania combined with Zanzibar. We've also had, interestingly, tours. Latin America seems to have really kind of been of interest at the moment. There's a TV program, I think, like Race Across the World or something that's going on at the moment. And quite a lot of people are calling about it. It's really kind of put some of the destinations in Latin America in the spotlight. So an interesting amount of inquiries there. But yeah, a mix, touring, and then special occasions, you know, as Derek said earlier, people with a big 0 birthday, honeymoon, anniversary, you know, they still want to go and they still want it to be really special. So yeah, very mixed.
Thanks. Alan, are you seeing any particular trends at all, or?
Yeah, there's definitely a mix out there of what's getting booked, particularly for summer 21. But I must say, the vast majority of what we're booking just now in the mainstream market is the families. And I think that's probably reflected and been locked up with their kids for the past 6 weeks, that people are thinking that dream again of getting away with them and a little bit of peace without them.
Yeah, at least they're booking with them.
Exactly.
Lisa, what about Gold Medal Travel too?
It's mainly families, and also we have had 2 rather large bookings this week actually, so in a really high value category. So I think luxury, I'm not saying it's immune to what's going on, but I think the disposable income is there with that luxury market. So luxury and families would be the one, less so on touring. And actually, I just want to touch on cruise, because we haven't seen a huge amount of new cruise inquiries coming in. Mm-hmm. And I know Chris mentioned earlier, again, Chris Foti, he thought cruise would take longer to come back. Having worked in the cruise segment, what I would say is avid cruisers will cruise. If you're a cruiser, and there's a huge brand loyalty to cruise lines as well. So I think the repeat customer for cruise it's okay, but I think the new to cruise will be a challenge. It was always a challenge anyway to try and introduce cruise to a new audience, but I think it's going to be even harder going forward.
That, of course, is where travel agents come in, isn't it? That they're able to demonstrate just what a cruise is and to kind of allay any fears that people might have. And I think agents will become more important than ever for the cruise market in demonstrating that.
Even so, I think that new to cruise, because of the negative PR and some of it, very unjustly as well, I still think that will be a challenge. But I do think the repeat bookers, if you've got cruisers on your database, I think it's still okay to talk to them about cruising because they're hooked into the genre of travel.
Okay. We've got an interesting one from Danny Wayne. He says, for late 2020, it feels logical the UK domestic tourism will resume fastest, whereas blanket global or even Europe-wide travel feels a long way off without a vaccine. But he says, can you see a potential solution for operators where the UK agrees deals with particular countries that rely on tourism, effectively creating contained tourism zones? It's quite an interesting one. I mean, I guess it would have to be almost government level that they would agree. He said perhaps UK tourists could fly into Alicante and visit the Costa Blanca, similar to what we've experienced in the past with Sharm el Sheikh. I don't know what any of your thoughts would be on that. It's a bit of a...
Sophie, sorry, just repeat the last bit again, sorry. So tourist zones?
Yeah, creating safe tourist zones where you fly into Alicante, for example, and then visit Costa Blanca. So you're kind of creating safe pockets.
Do you know, I think with something like that, who would have thought we'd all be engaging with each other right now the way that we are? And, things that seemed futuristic just a few months ago are happening right here and now. So I would never say never, but that does feel probably one step beyond, but it would definitely have to be government-led, I'm pretty sure. I'm not certain the industry could lead that. And just to think about the logistic operation that would entail, I'm not sure, jury's out. Probably more easier in destinations where there's a large volume of customers going rather than your off the beaten track places.
Yeah, it would have to be a specific place. Alan, any thoughts to add to that?
I don't know, it's an interesting question, that one, but although it's a fantastic dream, I think it could backfire immensely having something like that, because could you imagine if there was an outbreak in the zone that was worse than outside the zone? I think we just need to start getting out of this before we start thinking about those futuristic ideas.
Yeah, fair comment. Someone is asking, I guess, that you guys might be able to help with, just are customers still fully protected if they book a future dated holiday, given that the FCO advisory is still in place advising against travel indefinitely? I mean, the fact that you're selling holidays is proof that customers are still protected, but just to reassure agents.
I wrote a piece actually for a blogger who asked me to exactly the same question this week, and provided her with some advice for her followers. But if you book next year's holiday, it does come with a degree of flexibility anyway. So I think that the reassurance message is actually really important, and that flexibility message. Throughout this whole crisis, Kuoni was sort of quite early on with that flexibility piece, just to be able to say, look, you can book and you can change and amend your date. So I think that there needs to be some reassurance that if people are going to commit to a holiday for next year, that there's still that flexibility there. And that's something that we are doing.
Brilliant, thank you. Alan or Lisa, any points to add on that, just to reassure?
Yeah, well, with Jet2holidays, it was always package holidays you can trust, and it says the same going forward. We are fully protected, we take care of our customers, and as I say, whether you ask the agent, the customers, or any of our staff, that's what we're all working to get there. So no, all protected for anything.
Thanks, and ditto, I'm guessing, Lisa, for Gold Medal Travel Team.
Yeah.
I think the key point to take out from this session actually is the fact that people are still booking, which is fantastic to see, that certain sectors may well be thriving compared with others, but the fact that people are still booking is really heartening to see in the current climate.
I think it's heartening to see, and Derek touched on it when you did the piece earlier, but, you know, people want something to look forward to. And, you know, one of the things that we've all seen, I mean, one of our team said to us, you know, somebody called and they were talking to us and saying they're just desperate for somebody else to do the cooking and the cleaning. And I think we can probably all relate to that. So I think very, very much the longer the lockdown goes on, the longer people have got time to plot and plan and have some cheer and something kind of quite happy to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. On that note, I think we are going to have to wrap up. Thank you so much to our fantastic panelists. Really appreciate your time at this busy period. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
you. Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks. And thank you as well to all of you for joining us today. We do appreciate how busy you all are, so we hope that you found it to be insightful and most importantly helpful for supporting your business over the coming months. At TTG, we really, really do want to continue doing everything we can to support you through these tough times. So please do get in touch. Let us know what else we can be doing to help you and your business. Don't forget our Coronavirus Business Support Forum is also available on our website with our panel of experts. I'll try and direct some of the questions that we didn't get a chance to go through today onto the forum, so please keep an eye on that. We will try and answer as many as we can. And of course, don't forget to check out ttgmedia.com/DestFest tomorrow morning for the exciting new launch of the TTG Digital Destinations Festival. More will be revealed on that tomorrow morning. You can register your interest, but don't forget to check that out. We will be sending out a survey shortly this evening. We really do value your feedback. We want to know the sessions that you want us to cover, the topics that you want us to make sure that we're keeping you informed about. So please do let us know. We really do value your opinion and your feedback. All that's left now for me to say is continue to stay safe, to stay well, and to stay tuned to TTG for all the latest news and business support. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone.